Hi, I'm Leneth with Counted Quilts, and we're here to talk about this beautiful cougar that you just bought, baby quilt, and the finishing touches that you put on to make him as cute as he is. The finishing touches you find mentioned down here on the bottom of page 3 of your pattern. We're going to show you a few tips to putting those on. We'll start with the ribbon, which you put on here on the face and over here on the Y. White ribbon on his shoulders and down here on the football, and then attaching the eyes themselves. Before we begin, I just want to make a comment or two about sewing your seams on your strips. Let's go there. First of all, you can see that we're working with our strips and our pieces. We iron the seams open. This just helps it to lay flat. It makes it easier for it to pin. It gives it a better overall appearance. What I'm going to show you is when you get pieces that have this diagonal line in them from your overlaps and you want to join them to another one, maybe going the opposite direction. What I do is I take either a 1/4 inch ribbon or cut me a little 1/4 inch piece of course you want to match your seams here, seam to seam. And you want to match your edges, edge to edge. And make sure that you're sewing a true 1/4 inch. You get it sewn and your points line. And they come together. Nice matches. That's what we're after. Nice matches. Okay. Let's put some trim on this guy. We are using a product called Heat and Bond that we're going to put on the back of the ribbon. You are going to use 1/8 inch ribbon that is white and 1/8 inch ribbon that is black, and for the Y you'll need 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch ribbon that is white. What we're going to do is we are going to cut this Heat and Bond at 1/8 inch. You're going to cut 2 of those strips. They're very small, little 1/8 inch strips of Heat and Bond. Here I have my 1/8 inch ribbon. And I've pinned it, so you can see on this dark cloth on my ironing board, but I've pinned it in place so it's taut. Then I'm taking, my iron is heated to my high temperature. And I take my Heat and Bond strip that I've cut at about 1/8 of an inch. I pin it on the end, and I take my iron and I tack it down to the ribbon. Well, it takes a few seconds with the heat of the iron on the ribbon. Here then is my ribbon. The Heat and Bond to the paper. You will pull the paper off, and the glue is then on the ribbon. Shiny glue is on the ribbon for you to cut and attach to the quilt. We'll start with the eyes. I'm going to cut a piece of Heat and Bond, about that size. And then I'm going to iron it down on black cloth. Once I've got it ironed down with my hot heat setting, I'm going to take a nickel and I'm going to trace around a nickel. This is going to be the eye. Okay, so we've cut the 2 pieces of black, nickel size, traced and cut out. And we're going to take the paper off. The glue's on the back. And the Heat and Bond, we're going to take these and we're going to put them in the center, kind of down, almost touching on the bottom of his eye. There's his little eyes, centered. And we take a hot iron and we tack them down. These I will sew around. You can either do it with a satin stitch or zigzag stitch or something to hold it in place. And there's his eyes. Next we're going to put this black thread from his nose to his mouth on. Okay, we take our ribbon. It has our heat and bond on it. And we put one end where we want it on his nose. Put that. Take off the paper. Here's the glue. His nose. There. To his mouth. And we'll tack that down. On the trim for the football, we're using 1/8 inch ribbon with the heat and bond on the back. This piece here is 6½ inches long. These are 1¼ inches long. And you pin them in place. Take your iron on its hot setting and just touch them in place. Take out your pins as you go here. Okay. You kind of have to eyeball it. They're about equally placed going down the football. The stripe on the arm is again the one for 1/8 inch ribbon with the heat and bond. And I've cut them from the seam line to the edge, from the seam line to the edge, and they're about halfway between the two. And then you tack them down with a hot iron. When I'm quilting, I will quilt down the center of this ribbon to keep it on. The Y that goes on the mountain, this piece is 1 3/4 and these are 1 1/4. And then diagonal cut the edges. It's pinned on the center seam about 1 inch down from where this point is, about 1 inch down. And then these from this seam are up about 1/4 inch. And they're about 1 3/4 inch wide on the spread. And this is 1/4 inch ribbon versus the 1/8 inch ribbon that you've been using. Okay, we pin it in place and then we tack it down. For to make a chin, we need a small strip of the same color as he is, cloth, that we're going to iron down right here. We're going to make our own little ribbon and put it right here under his neck. You're going to cut a strip that is 1/2 inch wide, is about 7½ inches long. And then you need to fold it in half and iron it. Once it's folded in half and pressed good, you open it up and you're going to turn the edges in, making it a 1/4 inch wide piece of cloth with the two sides turned in, like bias tape. Folded it down to the center like bias tape, 1/2 inch on each side. And I'm going to add to it 1/2 inch strip of heat and bond, just as if it were ribbon. Pin and press. Put his chin on. We've just made a piece of 1/4 inch ribbon that we're going to put right down under his jaw here. To do that, we're going to open up this seam a little bit on each side, just a little bit with the seam ripper. We're going to take the paper off the back of this that we've just created. We're going to stick one end in the hole that I just made in the seam, and the other side in the other hole that I just made. And we're going to iron it in place. And there you have the finishing touches on our Cougar quilt. Another one of the fun, easy, and adorable Counted Quilts patterns.